I was really surprised. It wasn't what I was expecting. I could not imagine before the referendum that a majority of people would feel that way. I think it revealed my own, if you like, my own sense of how important being European and being part of the European Union is to me, because I did understand, I think I do understand quite well why why people voted to leave, because in my work, in the UK, I've worked mostly in the northeast and the northwest of England, Teesside, Sunderland, Lancashire, where the very high proportion of, I come from Lancashire, that's where my family comes from. So, you know, I've been aware for a long time of people's disenfranchisement of communities, of people's scepticism of politics to do anything about making their lives better, about people's sense that they weren't being listened to, about people's sense that their lives were getting worse, and so on. You know, this is something I was very, very aware of, and I think I was also, in the run-up to the referendum, despite myself, you know, I live in Germany for 20 years. I have a French partner. I have two dual citizen French-German children, trilingual children. We all speak 3 languages. So you know, I built my entire life around being European. It's something which is as much a part of my identity as being British, although I still see myself very much as British. So nevertheless, I had a sense of that, people's political frustration and sense of disempowerment, and that I think that this was a danger. But to be honest, I still didn't expect it to go that way, which is maybe, you know, it says more about my own biases than it does about the state of the UK. Yeah, it's personal, but it's also professional. Just before the referendum, I was in Newcastle and met with a colleague of mine, a collaborator of mine, who's an architect with a mid-sized practice, and we were talking about possible projects and the things we were working on together and why they weren't going ahead and so on. And he told me that he'd had conversations with his clients who were all telling him, this was a couple of months before the referendum, that basically nothing was going ahead until the referendum. All pension funds were not, all investors were not committing to anything, and therefore his office was kind of basically in a state of shutdown, and he was having to make contingency plans in the event of a negative referendum, in the event of a leave vote. And it really brought home to me that moment how, you know, how possible this was. And I mean, I came back and I said to myself and to my partner, look, we've got to do something about this as well. You know, we've got to have something in place, because if this goes this way, we're going to have to pivot. We're going to have to assume that we don't get any work anymore in the UK, and, you know, at least for a short period of time, you know, we're going to have contingency plans in place. And I think that was the moment when, and of course, when he told me his story, he was saying basically, I've got 2 files on my desk. One is, in the event of a Remain vote, I'm going to expand my office to 25 people, and in the event of a Leave vote, I'm going to shrink my office to 5 people. Yeah, completely. Absolutely transformed it. My professional life, as I just said, I've reorientated my business, partly out of necessity and partly strategically, but mostly actually out of, it's happened by itself, you know, towards working more in France and Germany, and therefore not in the UK. So my focus is less and less on the UK professionally, and personally my focus is more and more on the UK, because this has become something which I'm really following day by day, and it affects my personal rights. It affects a lot of legal aspects, and a lot of my sense of identity, a lot of emotional aspects, and that's been completely amplified by the fact that I didn't have a vote in this referendum. I didn't have a say. All the political discussion that's been going on before and since does not include people like me, and yet we are one of the groups, migrants from the UK in the EU, one of the groups of people who are really the most impacted by this, whatever happens. And so my sense of political urgency about this matter has been totally turbocharged by my sense of disenfranchisement and anger and disempowerment. Completely. I think it's alienated me from the UK, which is a deep part of my identity. So for me personally, I feel extremely alienated from my country of birth. I think looking at it as I do from where I live, which is in Germany, I think from Europe, from the European perspective, it's completely mystifying. For most people, what's happening and why a country which has previously been seen as very engaged, very pragmatic, very not always for good, but certainly confident and outward looking, has become completely inward looking, completely isolated, truculent, and in saying that, I'm only talking about really the political elite, not the people, but you know, the general sense of how UK politics presents itself to Europe, I think is from the outside is quite bewildering, to be honest. Probably the one word is I feel, it's a bit ironic, I feel silenced by the situation, which is a bit ironic because I'm being asked to ask my opinion here on an interview. So, you know, that's maybe a step in the right direction, but in terms of being politically represented in the debate, that's probably sums it up.
You mean you would like to be represented?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I think it's extraordinary when I hear people talking about people like me when I'm here in the political discussion, that it's just so far from the experience we're having of this. Yeah, I've applied to become a dual British-German citizen, and it was an odd decision because I've been here 22 years. I've never done it till now, and I've always asked myself why. And it's because I don't feel German. I feel British, but I have to do this. You know, now I have to do this. Maybe it'll be a good decision. I don't know, but yeah, there it is. There's only one group of people who are going to benefit from Brexit, and that is the disaster capitalists who are pushing it down the line and who are trying to get it over the line. Nobody else is going to benefit from Brexit. All the people who voted for empowerment, for a political stake, all the disempowered working class people, they're all going to, in the UK, they're all going to suffer from Brexit. And the only people who are going to benefit are the people who make money out of instability and make money out of the exploitation of others. My partner is French. my children are dual citizens. They also have French citizenship. And so I've seen Brexit a little bit also from this perspective. My wife and my children, they vote every 5 years in French elections here in Germany. They queue around the block at the embassy along with every other French expat around the world. And politicians, when there's a French election on, they come over here and they shake hands and they kiss babies and they look for votes because they have to. And there is a really big cultural difference between the way, for example, the French see their expats as ambassadors of France abroad and as economic motors for the French economy and so on and so forth, all of which is true, and the way the UK see see migrants from the UK in the EU, particularly since Brexit, which is and I've experienced this myself, as people who've deserted their country and so on, and who were like me completely disempowered from having a voice in this referendum, and that's an extraordinary contrast. You know, that really sums up how disempowered I feel and how disempowered many of us, many UK migrants in the EU, and also people like you, Lionel, EU migrants in the UK, feel about how this has gone and how it's going.